Peng Shuai's new bombshell, a tribute to Hu Xijin, and a baby dinosaur in China. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. An update in the ongoing saga of Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai. You may remember how she accused a former top leader of sexual assault and then went missing. Peng's name and even the word tennis was censored on the Chinese internet. But after a global backlash, Chinese state-run media began trotting out photos and videos of Peng proving she was totally fine. So can everyone please get back to whatever they were doing? Like talking about how great the Beijing Winter Olympics are going to be. And yet, for some reason, many people thought something suspicious was going on with Peng Shuai. Well, if this doesn't put their fears to rest, I don't know what will. Peng was just hanging out with former NBA star Yao Ming, which happened to be captured on video by a friend of a state-run media reporter. Look, if Yao Ming says Peng is okay, then she's okay. Don't people love Yao Ming? The two were at an event to support the Beijing Winter Olympics. And then, at the same event, Peng just happened to be stopped by a reporter from a pro-Beijing Singaporean newspaper.
你好，彭帅。你好。你好，是，可能跟你聊两句。我看您刚才跟这个姚明啊，他们都还聊得挺开心的啊。今天是怎么会到这儿来的？
你是在视频是吗？
是，我是新加坡联合早报。是。
Peng told the reporter that, in fact, she never accused anyone of sexual assault.
首先我要强调一点是非常重要的，我从未说过、写过任何人性侵我，这一点是要非常强调清楚的。
This needs to be emphasized very clearly. I think she may have accidentally read the stage directions. An easy mistake to make, say this in a sarcastic tone. So yes, when Peng wrote on her Weibo account that she never consented and that she was crying all the time, she wasn't accusing anyone of sexual assault. How could you even be confused by that? Actually, some people pointed out that in her original Weibo post, she technically did not use the Chinese term for sexual assault, so this might be a non-denial denial. Peng was also asked about an English-language email to the Women's Tennis Association. The Chinese state-run media said she wrote, but people noticed there was a cursor on the email like the reporter wrote it themselves. It's totally easy to explain. You see, Peng wrote the original Chinese email out of her own free will, but state-run media helped her translate the English one.
我的英文水平不够就是我没有办法能够把中文译成英文。
Even though there are many videos of her being interviewed in English. Also, she's wearing the Chinese flag and a t-shirt that says China. Come on, are they even trying? Sadly, this is what we've come to expect from Chinese state-run media, ever since the shock announcement this week of the retirement of Hu Xijin, the editor-in-chief of my favorite Chinese state-run media, the Global Times. Here's something I found out this week. Back in 1989, Hu Xijin joined the crowds of pro-democracy protesters who gathered in Tiananmen Square. The editor-in-chief of the Global Times was at the Tiananmen protests? Mind blown. However, Hu Xijin stepping down might not be a normal retirement. Some sources say his departure has been compelled, and that there are moves underway to strengthen political guidance at the newspaper. Hold on. If the Global Times wasn't towing the party line enough before, I don't know if I want to know what the new Global Times looks like. Anyway, Hu Xijin, you will be missed. My favorite Chinese state-run media just won't be the same without you. But it's not just Global Times editors that may be getting on the bad side of the party. Huangwei, China's live streaming queen, has been banned. Allegedly, it was for tax evasion, and she now has to pay a $200 million fine. Huangwei, who went by the name Via, was one of China's most popular live streamers, and she was very good at e-commerce. Via reportedly sold products worth over $1 billion in just one evening during China's recent Singles' Day shopping festival on November 11th. $1 billion? That almost doesn't seem believable. But the Chinese Communist Party has been cracking down on China's internet celebrities, and Via's $200 million fine is the biggest one yet. And it doesn't look like it will end anytime soon, because the party is now encouraging celebrities and live streamers to report any tax-related crimes before 2022. On the bright side, a professional live streamer will be able to produce a really nice public confession video. Speaking of public shaming, U.S. computer chip maker Intel has apologized to China. What did they do to hurt the feelings of the Chinese people? They told their suppliers not to source products or labor from Xinjiang. You know, because of the slave labor? That's after Congress passed a bill last week banning products made with Uyghur slave labor from Xinjiang. In its apology, which it posted on WeChat, Intel said it apologized and that they only said that stuff about Xinjiang because they had to comply by law, not because they actually agreed with it. Intel is attempting to have its cake and eat it too, complying with U.S. law while not angering the Chinese Communist Party. I don't think that's going to work out so well for them. And speaking of things to be ashamed about, the University of Hong Kong removed a Tiananmen Square monument in the dead of night. The statue is called the Pillar of Shame. It's by a Danish artist, and it stood at the university since 1997, which is ironic considering how the university took it down by trying to hide everything from the public in the middle of the night. They literally covered up, barricaded, and guarded the area before dismantling and removing the statue. Luckily, students and reporters managed to get there and document it anyway. Funny how the removal of the statue looks a lot like the burial of Hong Kong's freedoms. Speaking of places where China is making everything worse, the Solomon Islands. A few weeks ago, I told you about the protests there, largely fueled by anger over the government's collusion with the Chinese Communist Party. And now, the Chinese regime is going to help the Solomon Islands by offering anti-riot gear and a police advisory team. That's exactly what I said I was afraid of a few weeks ago. The last place China offered riot gear and police training to was Hong Kong. And we see how well that's going. And after the break, China is back at harassing India. Welcome back. It's almost Christmas, and you know what that means. The Communist Party will try to do horrible things while the West is distracted with the holidays. This year, it seems like it will be encroaching on the border with India. Nice try. I think we'll notice when World War III starts. China has built new helicopter pads, runways, and railroads on the Tibetan Plateau, according to satellite images and state media reports. The Indian side is keeping pace as well. So this Christmas, be naughty. After all, what do you think will be more useful in a post-World War Armageddon? Some cheap made-in-China plastic toy? Or coal? China's zero-COVID policy is going great. This week, one person caught the coronavirus, and so 200,000 of their neighbors got locked down. After a cluster of new cases in northwestern China, officials sealed off a city of 13 million, ordering all residents to stay inside. I think I see what's happening here. The Communist Party is having everyone stay indoors so when Santa comes, they can steal all his coal. That will help fuel all of China's factories. Unless, Santa conspiracy here, he gets all his coal from China. He keeps track of all your transgressions, breaks into your house, and is dressed in bright red. Santa is a communist. Redistributing gifts no one pays for? It's so obvious. Harvard professor Charles Lieber has been found guilty of lying about his ties to the Chinese government. Apparently, selling out your country to work with the world's worst authoritarian regime is really profitable. He was getting paid $50,000 per month by the Wuhan University of Technology. He also got a $1.5 million grant to establish a nanoscience research lab there. Obviously, he neglected to mention this to U.S. authorities. I know someone who will be getting coal this Christmas. Wait. But it's not just Harvard professors selling out America. A former U.S. sailor has been sentenced for selling stolen special ops gear to China. She stole the equipment, and her husband sold it to China online. Why'd she do it? To avoid her husband's nagging. Her husband couldn't buy the gear with his personal email address, so he repeatedly pestered his wife to do so. She grew so annoyed at his repeated requests that she gave him her password to her military email address and told him to buy the export-controlled military equipment posing as her. I think this story really challenged a lot of our gender stereotypes, don't you? China has imposed sanctions on the U.S. for sanctioning China over Xinjiang. China's foreign minister pointed out that while China is made of rubber, the Biden administration is made of glue. So when the U.S. sanctioned China, the sanctions merely bounced off, in the process sticking to the USA. 4 U.S. officials were sanctioned, meaning they will be barred from visiting mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau, and any assets they have in the country will be frozen. Because U.S. officials definitely have stockpiles of yuan in China. Scientists in China have discovered a perfectly preserved dinosaur embryo. It's 66 million years old and has been named Baby Yingliang. Here's a creepy artist rendition of what it might have looked like before being buried in a mudslide. All this is to say, the dinosaurs have belonged to China since ancient times, just like the South China Sea. Get ready for the real Jurassic Park. Velociraptors patrolling the Scarborough Shoal. And now it's time for me to respond to a member of the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army. That's what I call fans of the show who contribute on the crowdfunding websites Patreon and Locals. Just Some Guy says, so I just noticed YouTube unsubscribed me from your channel. First time it's ever happened to me, at least that I've noticed. Ah yes, YouTube has been secretly unsubscribing people from the show for a while now. Some people didn't believe me when I said that, but yeah, as you just found out, Just Some Guy, it's a thing. And it's one of the many ways YouTube screws with us. So that's why I always say, be sure you're subscribed to China Uncensored. Even if you already are subscribed, be sure you're still subscribed to China Uncensored. And remember, YouTube also isn't notifying people about new episodes. So make sure you check back every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday for new episodes. For example, our last episode about Hong Kong got suspiciously low views. Did YouTube let you know about it? If not, check it out. And if you can, consider supporting the show on Patreon or Locals. You'll always be notified of new episodes on top of all the other cool perks you'll get. I'll put the links below. Thanks for writing Just Some Guy, and thank you for watching. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.